Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocals of Cryptopsy, and you're listening to my podcast, Vox and Hops, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope that you have had a great weekend. I had an excellent weekend, my last weekend before I head back to work. In case you missed it over the past few weeks, I work in early childhood education. When I am not screaming for Cryptopsy or conducting interviews for Vox and Hops, that is my main gig. And as of today, I'm back at work taking care of little kids. So that is happening. And throughout the past weekend, I tried to relax and get ready for that. And I hope that you guys had a good weekend as well. This is a very special episode because not only is it a cool episode with an excellent person, it is also my 150th episode. It is super cool that this has happened, that I've gotten this far, and I appreciate anyone who's ever listened to an episode, who has spoken about Vox and Hops, who has shared the podcast, all of my guests who have been a part of it. It is baffling that I've reached this far, and truly I am humbled, and I can't wait to see what is coming up. I have to say that last week I had an amazing meeting, which is something that is going to bring amazing things to the podcast, and I can't talk about it just yet, but I have to tell you that huge things are coming in the world of Vox and Hops, and I can't wait until I can share those with all of you. I'm stoked about this. I would have never imagined that it would come to this, and I'm very excited about it. All month long, this is a spotlight on Redefining Darkness Records Month. I love doing these. It's very important to shine some light on extreme music, and the best way to do that is to go to the Redefining Darkness Bandcamp page. For this month, there is a promo code that you can use to get 15% off of all your vinyl, CD, and cassette purchases. There's a whole bunch of really cool shit up there. You should absolutely go check it out and use that promo code. The promo code when you're checking out is Vox and Hops. That is VOX ampersand HOPS. And you will get 15% off of all your vinyl, CD, and cassette purchases. Do it. Support extreme music. On today's episode, I am with Robin Mazen of Gruesome, and the most important person on almost every tour that you've ever been to. Here it is, Vox and Hops, episode number 150.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today, I'm with Robin Mazen from Gruesome, and she's also, in my eyes, the ultimate merch queen. She is involved with every band out there that you can think of. She has probably sold you a shirt and taken care of many, 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 many bands that you love. I am super stoked to be with you. When this whole crazy COVID thing started, you were one of the first people that I hit up to do one of these internet chats because I just think you're awesome. So, number one, how are you? I know that you've had an accident, sadly, recently. I hope that you're recovering well, and that's why we didn't chat sooner. So how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, and thanks for thinking of me. Appreciate it. I don't ever think of me. I don't I'm not a good interview person. Interviewee, is that a proper term?
I believe it is, yes.
I don't know.
The best part about Vox and Hops is that it's just two people sitting down, sharing a beer, and having a chat, so there's no stress of an interview really happening. It's just as if we were at a bar together.
Yeah, that's what makes it a little bit better for me. But, yeah, to go back, I did. I wanted to do it earlier, but, yeah, like, when was it? About going on about a month, I fell roller skating, and I broke my wrist and my hand, so I've been kind of dealing with that. I had some surgery, and then now I'm in therapy for it. So I'm getting there. So, and I wasn't even drunk. I was sober.
I saw those pictures and they were pretty brutal. So way to keep it metal.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. They said, like, anytime I asked, like, where it was, I was like, how bad is it broken? Where? They're like, it's just broken a lot. And that's all they kept telling me. I guess the average, they put the plate in there and some screws and wire, and they said the average screws that they normally use are 5, and I have 10.
Wow.
Double the amount.
How long are we looking until you're rehabilitated?
I'm getting there. I tried to play the other day, but I just can't turn my wrist the normal way. So I'm hoping like in the next 2-3 weeks, I'll be able to play a little bit. I just won't be able to it's not going to be fully healed probably for 6 months to a year before it fully heals. But I will be able to start playing at least once I can make my wrist turn.
Is it your fingering hand or your picking hand that got...
It's my fretting hand. It's my left hand. So it kind of sucks. But at the same time, it might be better because I think it's easier to probably rehabilitate that, in my mind, than getting my fingers, like my picking fingers, back to that more, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yes.
Because I don't use a pick, so...
Exactly, yes, yeah.
You know?
As all great bassists should not. Play with your fingers, everyone, please.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a great bass player. I played guitar and I I was terrible at it because I don't like using a pick. So hey, play bass.
Let's loosen you up a little bit. What are you drinking on your side? I have a beautiful beer here. I'll let you introduce yours first, though.
Mine is in celebration of Cinco de Mayo. I went with the Modelo Negra because I prefer darker beers and lighter beers. So it's nothing, off the beaten path. Like usually I like, special IPAs, and I usually like to try, like on tour, I'll try beers that are locally made at every bar wherever I go. I should be on that Tap app, but I never do it because I just keep forgetting about it. But this time, Cinco de Mayo, it was on sale, and I was like, I'll just do that. Why not? Try and feel somewhat celebratory, I guess. But yeah, I prefer darker beers than, and IPAs than regular, drafts, kind of. That's just my preference.
That's awesome. Me on my side, I have a newer beer that was just, sadly, this brewery just opened. It's a really, really cool place up here in Montreal, a little bit off the beaten track, a bit more north, and they opened like the week that COVID hit. So they started canning their products, and people have been going to pick them up. This is a Silo. Shout out to the good people of Silo for hooking me up with these brews for my interviews. This is a IPA with a Goyave. What is Goyave in English? I should have checked that first. It's like a tropical fruit, a Goyave. It's like papaya, maybe? No, because that's papaya, yeah. Anyways, IPA a la Goyave, it clocks in at 7%. I'm going to crack it open. And tell me a little bit more about the pleasures of touring and getting to taste some great beers. Do you have any favorite spots where you like to go drink some beers when you are out on the road?
Now I have to think about that. That's a hard question. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's always you go to the same venues a lot, so you try and, hit the same places close by kind of thing. And now, man, you stumped me. Obviously, good. I could think Montreal, you go over to Fafoons because it's right there and you drink, but they don't have, or I'm going to shout out Turbo House.
Absolutely. Shout out to Michelle and Sergio.
Yep.
Turbo House. Absolutely.
You go and try and hang out where other people are hanging and your friends are hanging, but it's always I'm trying to think of some of my, man, you stumped me. Yeah, but I do try and, anytime there's a day off or after a show, if there's any type of, when I order beer, I would like something local, just so that I don't want the same thing over and over, I'd like to try the new beers that are out there. We have the closest thing to me, that's one of the more popular places is Cigar City Brewery. Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely, yes.
That's maybe 10-minute drive for me. And, and they turned it into a bar and a restaurant. They were supposed to have a big wrestling metal show there in April, but obviously it got canceled because of everything. So they're very in tune with the scene, and they're up to doing, cool stuff like that, like parking lot concerts. Obituary was supposed to play, and I think Nasty Savage and a bunch of bands. So it would have been awesome. But
I saw that was announced, and I was like, wow, metal, wrestling, craft beer, it's perfect.
Yeah, and it's Cigar City Brewery who's going to put it on. Like, that's amazing, right? With Tony from Municipal Waste.
Super cool.
It was his brainchild.
Let's go farther back now. Take me back to your youth, growing up in your house.
My youth.
Your youth, yes. going back.
Let me think if I can think that far.
We'll see if we can get there together.
Okay.
The soundtrack of your youth. What music was playing in your house by your parents or by your guardians when you were not in control of the music? What were they listening to?
My parents were never really music people. I mean, they enjoyed music if it was there. They weren't like, oh, listen, they weren't like that wasn't their main thing, Like if it comes on, they're like, oh, this is a nice song, or, you know what I mean? It wasn't anything like in particular, I guess. Like, I mean, we would get those order 9 8-tracks for a penny and whatever it was. And then, back then, and they would get, I remember Fleetwood Mac was one of them back then, and like the Eagles and stuff, because that's what they were during that club that they would do. And my mom had a bunch of 45s and everything of, music when she was a kid from like, the 50s and stuff like that. But there were never music. If there was any type of music, it was mostly me controlling it 99% of the time in the car, in the house. And they would just let me listen to whatever.
When did you get the bug? When did you? What would be like your first band? This band that you discovered, or you heard it somewhere, and you're like, oh my god, what is this? Who would be that first band?
It's really, I try and remember things like that, and I just remember being a kid, and I had this like portable record player that had like a plastic lid. And you took it off, like it was super old school. I think it was like orange and brown, or, one of those colors, or, from back then. And, getting 45s. And I remember I had the song, Billy Don't Be a Hero on 45. That was one of the first things I've gotten. And then I remember it was my birthday, and I remember I got the Pina Colada song on 45. For some reason, I remember those two things with that record player, And like back then, honestly, this is really like, I was a really big Barry Manilow fan. I remember always wanting to watch Barry Manilow when he would do like some kind of special on TV. And I loved the Bay City Rollers back then because they had a TV show also. So, I mean, I'm going like, but that's what, I remember like just always being like, oh, that's rad. Oh, that's great. And then, you're growing up in a neighborhood, everybody's older, and the kids in the neighborhood, everybody was like Kiss 100%. And then that was like the big thing. It's like Kiss. It was like everything was Kiss, 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 Kiss 100%, like amazing. And then that's right when Kiss, I would have to say Kiss, because I mean I joined the Kiss Army like back then, and that was like my first real like heavier, you could say, music, and then like I still, I'm still like Kiss Destroyer through high school, trying to get ready to go out. I'd put that on vinyl pretty much every night to get ready.
Your hype music.
that was still my jam. And my cousin, I had older cousins too, and they were like into, as starting after Kiss, and like my one, like he was like an older cousin from, I think he's like my second cousin, but he like had like a basement room, and he wallpapered his entire room with like aluminum foil and blacklight posters. And like he had like the Black Sabbath and the Deeper, from back, like starting that. So like I also was, and all my cousins were into music like that. So I was always, I think, lucky enough to everybody that was my cousins were, everybody's into the same type of thing, So it's kind of cool.
Absolutely. And was it fun? Like, was like a challenge in between yourself and your cousins and your other cousins to discover new music and share it with each other?
No, like, I mean, we weren't, it wasn't like close because they didn't live near me. So like if we would go visit and stay, you'd see that. And I would, just sit there and be like, what are they listening to? Oh my God, what is that? Like, it was mostly the kids in the older kids in the neighborhood that were really into, like I said, Kiss. And then as I got older, like, we moved and like those kids in the neighborhood were older. And then it was like, it started just getting heavier. And I always say, like, in fourth grade, this kid Frank brought in Dirty Deeds record. I want to say I had an AC/DC 8-track, but he brought in fourth grade Dirty Deeds, and he played it for show and tell. And I went home and I told my dad, I'm like, I need to go buy this record. And my dad took me to the store and I bought it with my allowance on vinyl, and I still have it. So
that's really badass. Fourth grade, I love that.
Yeah, I just remember Mrs. Lamb's class. I remember everything about it. I remember it was like, that was like the epitome of like hearing, that record in class. And I for some reason remember like, he's got big balls and she got big balls, and and Mrs. Lamb just like kind of freaked out, and that was the end of his show and tell with that record. And that was
that probably made it even more appealing and more something that you wanted, the fact that she didn't let it finish.
That's probably, but I mean, as soon as I heard it, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I need that in my life immediately. And like, literally I went out and bought it. Like, yeah.
You have been at so many shows in your life, so many shows. But do you remember your first show that you went to?
My first show is my first concert is Motley Crue.
Cool. That's cool.
It was my first show. Yeah. It was good. I can't remember who opened. I want to say, I can't remember. Like, it's so weird because I have been to so many shows, and I feel like I should remember these things. And I don't know how, like, people keep such good track of, like, their concerts and their history of their life. And I'm just like, my God. And I feel like I have a good memory, and I don't, I guess.
It's hard to keep track. I can imagine just the vastness of all the shows you've been a part of. When did the whole you wanting to be on stage, when did that start?
I always, wanted to play up like most people. You're a kid in school and here's the recorder. I don't know if you guys have that up there, but ours was like learn to play the recorder, and like you're in music class and you're learning about like the different musical notes and all the things. So I was always into that. And then, I started playing piano because my grandparents lived next door and they had a piano, and I wanted to play piano. And I just hated taking lessons. Well, I didn't mind the lessons. I hated practicing because it was like forced down my throat. Like, did you practice? Are you going to practice? It's like, leave me the F alone, I mean, I didn't say that because I was a kid, but, but it's like, I think the more it's like forced on you, you kind of like push away from it. At least I do, I think. I've done that with several different things, and then after that, like I wanted to play guitar. My mom bought me an electric guitar. And I wanted a Kramer because of Eddie Van Halen, but I wanted the color that I got, which is a blue, because it's Steve Harris's bass. And I got that, like, I was 16, so a long time ago, but maybe 15. And then she got me my acoustic because I was taking music in high school. I was taking guitar class. So I would play. And actually, like, me and my two friends, we would sit around and pretend like we had a band. And our band, basically, this was like maybe when I was like 12 or 13, we would just put on a record and we would sing it. And that was our band. You know what I mean? Like, we pretended like, oh, she was going to play drums and I was going to do this, or you know what I mean? And we had a name. We called ourselves Nyx, NYX. But that was our our first thing, because we wanted a band and do that. And I remember, I don't know what, like, singing Motley Crue, especially like back then, like first record Motley Crue, like singing that shit. It's like, what? And then after that, in high school in guitar class, I wanted to do a band then too, and I was actually going to start playing. This girl Michelle was in my guitar class, and actually Michelle went on to play in Jack Off Jill. I don't know if you know who that is.
I do not. I'm sorry.
They were like part of the Marilyn Manson scene.
Cool.
But yeah, so she continued playing, and we were going to try and do stuff, but that didn't work out. And then, you know, high school's over, and that's when I met Derketa, pretty much because I always wanted to play, and I was doing that, and then it just kept going and going and going, you know, with everything else. So nothing super exciting, but, you know, that's my musical path.
just a pure love of playing and the music.
Yeah, I just always wanted to play. Like, I just wish I had more discipline. Like, if you're taking it, like, I really enjoyed guitar class because, you know, everybody got to pick a song, like, each week. On Monday, somebody picked a song, and by Friday, you had to, like, basically transcribe it, learn it, and then play it in front of the class. So whoever song was whatever they picked.
I said it's very cool. It's not something that we have up here in Canada, at least in Montreal, to have a guitar class like that in high school. It's very, especially if you could pick whatever song you wanted.
Yeah, it was like crazy. Like, it was just, that's just how the teacher ran it. It was awesome. Like, I took 2 years of it, and that was one part. And obviously there was different things. Sometimes you had to do everything by, and well, I also took music theory, but it was a different type of thing.
How did you end up being on every tour with some of the biggest acts out there?
It's really like, you know, I still had my band, whatever, and I was going to college, and my regular job back then was pharmacy. I worked in a pharmacy forever. And it was Angel Corpse was going to Europe. And Gene messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, would you be interested in going to Europe on this tour? We're touring with Marduk and selling merch." He's like, "We can't really pay you, but, you know, we'll pay for your ticket and everything, and, you know, it's a free trip to Europe."
The classic offer.
The classic offer. Yeah, but I was like, "Oh, I'm like, I knew the Marduk guys already. I knew the Angel Corpse guys already, and everything." And I'm like, man, and it was on a tour bus, and I was like, man, this kind of sounds like a lot of fun. And actually, and I actually just broke up with my boyfriend at the time. So I was like, you know, just like freedom, not freedom really, but you know what, freedom. And
let's get the hell out of here. And
yeah, like something that, you know, well, wow, this came up, why not, you know? So I talked to my boss at the pharmacy, and I was like, "Hey, I got this offer and I kind of want to do it. What do you think?" And he's like, I'm like, "When am I ever going to get this opportunity again?" You know? And he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "That's fine." He's like, I took a leave of absence. Like, I was lucky enough that, you know, they kept my spot for me. But I took a leave of absence, and I went with Angel Corpse over there. And by the third day, Marduk fired their merch guy, so I started doing Marduk's merch. So then I was doing Angel Corpse and Marduk. And then the tour was like 8 weeks long.
Holy shit.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was like October something to December. It was crazy. And halfway through the tour, it turned into like kind of more of a small festival. Like Cannibal Corpse joined on, Defleshed, I want to say Eternus, all joined, and they had a merch guy. Those three bands had one merch guy, and he wasn't the greatest. And like they were like, "Can you do our merch too?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like this is because I already knew like the Cannibal guys, you know, of course, and I was like, I don't know, let me think about it. And then they wound up kind of firing him, and then Cannibal, like, we got back home, and then it was like, "Hey, we're going on tour. Do you want to go on tour with us? Hey, we're going on tour. You want to go on tour with us?" And then somebody else called me, "Hey, you want to tour with us?" Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and it never ended. So my time of like, when am I ever going to have this opportunity again it's been over 20 years.
Do you still go back to that pharmacy?
Actually, like as I was still touring, I would go and work in the pharmacy. I would be what they call the floater. So I would go work at different stores wherever they needed me. So I was able to cover. They created a position for me, which was fantastic. I was like basically the only one in the company that did this, because they had the other, like the pharmacist that did it, and then they had like me, which is I was a tech. So I was the only person that did it. And then towards the end of that, they created another position with me, and they would send me to pharmacies that they were opening. So I would go and open the pharmacy, set it up, train the pharmacist and everything. So then I started doing that on top of touring and everything. So it was crazy. And then I haven't worked at the pharmacy in a long time, but actually with this pandemic thing going on, or whatever you want to call it, I was trying to find a job because obviously I can't tour now. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what can I do? And I was going to go get a job at this pharmacy here, and then I broke my hand and I can't lift anything or type or I can't open pill bottles. I can't do it. So I'm like, okay, I guess I can't do that now. That's over. So
what was it about you that made all these bands love you? What makes a good merch person?
I mean, like, for instance, Angel Corpse, I was friends with them, and, and they trusted me. Marduk I knew, so they trusted me. Then Cannibal, of course, you trusted me. You need to have somebody that you trust. You don't want somebody like, that's going to be there and like partying the whole time. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong, I do party, but I do not ever start drinking until my job is done. Everything's got to be put away. My money, my merch, everything. Nothing's near me. And then I'll start drinking. So I always say, like, every day is a Monday, every day is a Friday. Because it's like, oh, you wake up, you're like, oh, I have to load in, I got to work, I got to, like, you're just like, blah, like going to work on a Monday, like, oh, I got to commute, and then, you work all day, and then after the show, you put everything away, it's like getting home, and it's like, yay, party, Friday night, and then it's like next day, so, like, you know what I mean? I think, like, it's just, I don't know. You'd have to ask them why they always, like, why I get hired. I would think it is because I've been around for so long, and it's just, I don't know.
It ties in with the reason that the pharmacy kept you for so long, too. You're probably very reliable, trustworthy, a hard worker.
I think I'm a hard worker. I think I'm trustworthy. I think I'm reliable. I don't know if everybody would have that same perspective of me, but that's how I feel about myself. I mean, and I'm really, like, I honestly, like, I mean, now over the last few years, merchandise isn't my only job. Everybody wants me to tour manage now and all kinds of stuff, which that's fine. I don't mind it. I like doing merch because I like talking to other fans. I know that sounds like most people don't. I do. I like being in the crowd. I like talking about the band that I'm working for, like, and talking to the people asking me questions, and they're like, they're metalheads. I'm a metalhead, and I'm just, at heart, 100,000%. And I just like, and I like watching the band every night. I don't know. It's just, so I look at it like, I don't know, maybe because I have fun. I don't know.
When you've started tour managing now, are you doing that in addition to doing merch, or is it just that as a standalone job? I'm
doing both. Yeah, I'm tour managing and doing merch. And it's definitely more difficult, depending on the band, especially. Some bands are easy, but, overall, it's still, when you're doing those two jobs, merchandise is pretty, I wouldn't say demanding. It's demanding of your time because you're at the merch pretty much all day setting up, depending on your product line. But you're at the merch most of the time, like 90% of the day, because then doors open, and then you can't go run to tend to the band's needs if they need something. It's impossible. And then you're like on the bus an hour and a half after the band even gets off stage. So it's a lot of you're not really around them to take care of stuff. So, you know, I think when you're doing, like, one of the jobs suffers more, and I want to say the taking care of the band aspect and the tour manager aspect, unless the band doesn't need you for specific things during that time. You know, if they're self-sufficient, like, oh, let me go get my water that I needed. You know what I mean? Then it's not a problem. But you know what I mean? It's just, when you're at merch is crazy, you know, especially if you're with a bigger band.
It never ends.
Yeah, especially if you're with like a larger band, you're selling merch. You know what I mean? So
I know exactly what you mean, and I was just on a podcast or a live stream, the Alex Kendrick show, little plug there with Frank Finelli, who was talking about exactly that, where you can, he's told bands, like, I can tour manage, I can do merch, I can do lights, but you have to understand that out of all three of these, you know, I'm not going to be able to do the best job that I would be doing if I was just giving you one of these jobs. It's like, you can save money, I can make more money, but you're going to get lesser quality in all three of these aspects, you know?
Exactly. It's just something's going to, like, suffer. That's why it works out better when, like, the front of house person is tour managing and doing front of house, because he's at front of house the same time the band's on stage.
Exactly.
So it's not, you know, it makes more sense. I mean, it can be done, but it definitely hinders, you know, something, you know. But if you have other people on the tour, like, that help you a little bit, like, you know, if you have like a guitar tech or a drum tech that kind of takes care of, you know, the backstage stuff, so that you're not worrying about it because you're at merch, it goes a little bit more smooth. But yeah, it definitely, something suffers. And unfortunately, for me, I'd rather, and this is going to sound shitty, I'd rather the band suffer, because the merch is where the money is, and that's the only way the band really makes any money.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. Yes,
that's the money.
We're traveling t-shirt salesmen. Yeah,
I mean, it's, you know, yeah, you get paid by, you know, the shows and everything, but if you're doing, anybody, like, I mean, I don't know if anybody does this, I would think the majority of people do this. When you do a tour budget, you go by your show money, and usually that's in the negative, and your merch is where, you know, it keeps the tour afloat and hopefully makes some kind of profit at the end, if you're lucky. So
we're living the dream.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It is living the dream for me. Like, I don't mind it, because like I said, where can you go and watch bands that you freaking love every night and talk to people and see your friends? And it's, you saw me. I left the show and went with you to another show for 10 minutes, you know.
That's right. That was fun. That was a crazy night. That was really fun. Despised Icon in one venue, Amon Amarth on the other side. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was like, and I snuck out for a few to run over, you know. So
I'd like to just name off, I know some bands that you've worked with. I know you've worked with a lot of them, but probably some of the listeners might not be aware of just who you've worked with. So just spew off a few bands. You're probably going to forget some, and you're not going to like that. But spew off some bands that you do work with actively.
It's, oh my God, it's always so hard to remember all of them, honestly. I mean, I work for Exodus mostly. That's my number one, basically, I would say, that I work with. Testament, Death Angel, San Francisco Bay Area bands right there. I work Overkill. I sold merch for Anthrax. I sold merch for Slayer. I sold merch for Volbeat. Sold merch. Worked for Death Clock. Oh my God. Behemoth, Cannibal, Marduk and Angel Corpse, Immolation, Vader, King Diamond, At the Gates. I don't know. It's easier to maybe name a band and I could tell you yes or no.
And that is why I think you're the road queen that's out there with everyone, just so involved. I loved it. So connected with all of the huge metal bands. I love it. Let's touch on the worst day that you've had on tour.
The worst day I've had on tour?
What's that road horror story? You've done so many tours. What is that horror story?
I don't honestly know. I really don't honestly know. I mean, besides like finding out that people pass away and you can't do anything about it, that's probably the hardest, horrible thing that happens, because you can't really do anything. You can't grieve. You still have to work. You can't get home. You know, that's a major downfall of this, you know?
Because we just live the same day over and over again, and it's totally weird that.
Yeah, it's like you can't, you know, like if I was in Europe and somebody very close to me passed away, and, you know, I can't get home, I can't do anything, you know, or like in the States, like you find out somebody passed away, like unless it's like serious and you have to leave the tour and, you know, you work out stuff from there. But sometimes you just don't have that opportunity because it happens so fast, and you know what I mean? That stuff like that is definitely the worst for me, like personally, like that. But I mean, as far as a daily thing on tour, that's my worst ever. I messed up my rib cage and I couldn't work. Like, I mean, I worked, but I couldn't do anything. It was horrible. That was a bad day. But I can't think of a worst day on tour. Like, that's a horrible, you know, I'm not gonna move. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's stuff that happens on every tour. Like, the first tour with Angel Corpse and Marduk, like, we were trying to go to Russia, and there was like situations with the visas, and we were in Poland, and we were stuck in a parking lot for like 2 days waiting for this embassy thing or so. I don't even know. I really can't remember the details in my head, but I remember having to go to the bathroom, and I had to buy sheets of toilet paper with zlotys.
Yes.
At the thing. And then after that, we left and we went and parked behind Market Halle in Hamburg for like 4 days. Luckily, because they were nice enough to let us park there. But that wasn't really tragic. It wound up being okay. Getting denied getting the show canceled in Belarus by the military, and then having to go sit at the border for 2-3 days and having to go to the bathroom in the woods wasn't fun, but it wasn't tragic. You know, like it's just stupid stuff. Like on the last tour, right as this coronavirus thing, like it was the Bay Strikes Back, Testament, Exodus, Death Angel. You know, Italy got canceled because we were in Switzerland, and it was right when they closed down the Italian border. And the government shut everything down. But in the process of that, we were like on a ferry. Well, I don't want to say the first thing. I don't know if I can legally say the first thing, what happened in Sweden. But basically we got pulled off the bus, stuff happened, and then blah, 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 anything, whatever. And then like we took a ferry, and there was a huge storm, and like we were one of 2 ferries on the water, and they shouldn't have let us go. And we were going from Sweden to Finland, and the waves were horrible. It was really bad. Everybody was throwing up. I don't know. I'm laughing about it, but it wasn't like tragic. Like, I don't know, you know. I'm adding this as another reason why you're on all these tours, because you have somehow remained positive throughout many of these things that a lot of people would have bitched and quit over. No, I just was like, okay, whatever. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to think of like.
Those ferry rides are brutal, though. When they shouldn't let you go, I've been on one of those. It's very uncomfortable and horrible.
I mean, I loved it. I loved the ferry, but this one was. I mean, I didn't mind it that much. Like, I mean, I do that 70,000 tons of metal every year, and I do the pre-cruise for that. So I'm kind of used to like the boat rocking, and you know, and I've been in storms on the cruise ship and the smaller cruise ship that was really bad, to where like I got to the point after a little while that I was like, okay, make this stop unless I'm going to freak out, But on the ferry, it was kind of, it was really bad for a lot. And then it got really, really bad and people were terrified. And I was just like, okay, but
You're a tough cookie.
I just went to bed. I don't know. I went to sleep.
A whole bunch of horrible things that happened with that last tour. His drum set got destroyed during that. Am I crazy? No? Some gear got wrecked?
No, basically what happened was Gary wrote, because we were in Finland and Testament had all their gear on a truck. And he just said the truck didn't make it. And all of a sudden, Blabbermouth turned it into the truck went overboard and all the gear's lost. That's what I mean. It's so silly. It's no, that didn't happen. Their stuff didn't show up. So they used Death Angel and Exodus stuff and the guitars and everything. And because of that, in my personal opinion, and if anybody in Testament's listening, it was the best set of the tour. Because they play, it was sick. For me, because they went all old school. And it was sick, because they didn't have their stuff to play or different, guitar tunings. They can only do certain things.
It was very fresh too.
Yeah,
right out of the comfort zone.
They know. I told them. I told them anyway. I was like, best set. So, but
that's amazing.
But,
coming home from that tour, a bunch of the people got ill and got contracted COVID. It's impossible to keep a simple cold out of a tour bus, so I can only imagine with COVID, I can see how fast that it would spread on a tour bus, and it's crazy what happened to all of them.
Well, that's what I keep saying to people. Don't get me wrong, because I'm sure people are going to get upset because you see all the people online. To me, everybody is so over the top, scared, fearful that if they walk out of their house, they are going to die. Grant, like you just said, on a tour, friends, there was 3 tour buses. You figure we had people come in, come out. Testament had, friends on the tour, fly in and leave. Technically, if you go with the double drivers, the truck drivers, there's 50 of us total, and like you said, on a normal tour, everybody gets sick. It goes from one person to the next, bus aids, whatever. Everybody gets sick, and I think, I know, towards the end, I want to say it was really weird. It was we were in France when they closed down the Louvre, and they were thinking about closing down Paris. They started closing down the train systems and everything, while we were there. And I want to say it was around that because that was in the middle of the tour. We were in Spain for 2 days. We were we hit every hot spot of this freaking thing that they said in Europe was happening, and so, we get home. I towards the end, Will was really not feeling well. That was, and Ted and Rob from Death Angel were kind of sick. Their light guy was I can't smell or taste anything. It was just kind of that thing, and Ted's nephew, Jonathan, he wasn't feeling that great. It was most the Death Angel bus, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was just them. But on our bus, it was nobody was really not feeling not bad really. And, they canceled the German show. And then we were flying out the day that, we already had our flights for the day that supposedly they were shutting the borders down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we just kept the regular flights or whatever. And then we got home, and it was I want to say maybe 10 people got tested. Maybe more people got tested, but some people were negative. And then other people weren't allowed to get tested, at that time because they didn't have enough tests. But I want to say, I would think all of us at some point had it to some degree. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because, I was clapping a little bit. And, the one guy that got tested positive, like he was hanging out on our bus and I'm playing Yahtzee with him and like touching his pen and we're sharing dice and you know what I mean? It's like, it's, you know, you're with everybody. It's not like the cleanest environment and everything, but so yeah, everybody got, you know, tested. Some people got really sick. They were just told to like, just stay home and rest or whatever. Obviously everybody knows what happened with Will. I was really worried about that, but luckily he's fine. But it's just really weird to me because everybody got home, they got tested positive, and supposedly this is super contagious, but yet the people that live in their homes never got it. They tested negative. You know what I mean? And they're living with these people, sharing dishes and food, and they're touching things in the bathroom. And, you know, you can, you know, so like I kind of, you know, granted, yeah, everybody that got it said they were the sickest that they've ever been. Like they were just more, it was like the worst cold that they've ever had. You know, just really tired and run down and just, you know, different weird, you know, just felt weird. And it lasted for 2 weeks but everybody's fine. So, but I just really find that it's, I don't, like, in my personal opinion, I'm not a fucking doctor. Excuse my language.
You can say whatever the fuck you want here. Don't worry.
Okay. I don't know anything about what they're doing. It's not like I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a disease specialist by any means. I'm just going by my personal thought of if it's that freaking contagious, how is nobody else, like nobody that they live with or came in contact with within those couple of days when they got home, friends and everything, nobody got anything. I'm just like, to me, that doesn't seem like a deadly spreadable disease. Just throwing it out there. Like, it doesn't seem like that to me.
How long do you think until shows will come back?
I feel like, I mean, here in Tampa, obviously, I feel like it's going to be sooner than most places because, I mean, they're not going to be huge shows. They're going to be local shows. And it's going to be coming up soon. No, you know, at certain bars. I don't know how many people will attend because, again, people are so scared to death that, you know, somebody's going to breathe on them. And that's I shouldn't even bring it up on, because then I'm just going to be preaching. I don't know, working in a pharmacy, like being around people that actually, like, you know, that are super, like, back when nobody knows it, like, you know, not say AIDS, MRSA, like, you know, and I'm dealing with people like that. And that was, you know, that when there was no cure, you know, that's almost like a little kind of scary, but like, I wasn't afraid to be around that. And to me, it's, I think maybe I'm just desensitized because, like, being on tour, I'm dealing with, like, people were like handing me money out of, like, they put it in their mouth and hand it to me. So like 60,000 dirty people in a month. I wouldn't say they're dirty, but you know what I mean? Like, money's dirty anyway. And I'm touching it all and touching my eyeballs. And I'm surprised, like, you know, I'm probably immune to everything. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was thinking about getting tested for the antibodies because I'm probably seriously immune to everything. And I could probably...
You might be the cure.
So I might hold the cure for everybody.
One last question. You are a professional tourer. You've been around, a professional musician. What is your hangover cure?
Oh, my God. If I had that, I would be a millionaire. I don't have... For me personally, honestly, I suffer and suffer and suffer, and until, like, the only things that I really find that honestly work, even though like, I've tried bananas, like, to get the potassium and lots of water and everything. I want to say a good Bloody Mary.
That's not the first time someone has said that. Yeah.
That really seems to neutralize everything in your body correctly. I don't know why. It just really seems that way. Because, I mean, I could be hungover, and I finally break down after hours of suffering and go Bloody Mary, and then all of a sudden I feel okay. But I really did, like, yeah, I wish if you find a real cure to get rid of a hangover in like 5 minutes, please share the wealth of knowledge, because
I will. Then you just gave me an idea. Actually, I should make a book one day with everyone's suggestions.
Yes, like something like that. Do a whole just something on that, because, like, you know, everybody has their own take on it. Hair of the dog, blah blah blah. I've tried hair of the dog. It doesn't really work for me personally. You know, I've tried Gatorade. I've tried, you know, but for some reason, a Bloody Mary, bang. I don't know. But it takes a while to get to that point to be able to want the Bloody Mary to make yourself drink it. My opinion. I can't just be like, oh, I'm so hungover, let me try and do this. I can't do it.
Robin, thank you so much for taking some time to sit down with me, to have a chat, to share a brew. It was absolute pleasure, and I can't wait till all of this is over so that you come through Montreal, or I come through and you miraculously are home, and we can hang out face to face again.
I know, right? That would be great. And I'm sorry if, like, this is really horrible. And like I said, I don't like talking. I feel like I just sound stupid.
It is absolutely perfect. So thank you so much. I raise my glass to you, and cheers.
Cheers. I got my glass up too.
Perfect.
Ding. Here, I'm going to cheers my phone. Tap my phone. Cheers. There you go.
Hey, thank you so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. I love Robin. You should love Robin. I'm sure you've met Robin. She is, as I mentioned in the intro, the most important person on all of the tours that we've ever been to. She is what makes most shows that we've been to work and function. She is crucial. Not only that, and I didn't get to touch on it enough throughout the interview, and I feel bad about that, but she's also a really sick bass player in an amazing band called Gruesome. I wish that I got more into that, and the next time I chat with her, I will go deeper into that. So I apologize to you, Robin, for not digging deeper into that aspect of your life. I can't wait till shows start happening again so that I can hang out with Robin again, face to face. Much love and respect for hanging out with me. I really appreciated it, and it was a great chat, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. I have 2 more episodes coming at you, one on Wednesday and one on Friday, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.